मंडलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनं शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। First of all, I must thank Lakshmi Didi, Dr. Lakshmi Kumari, for having welcomed us and let us stay in this center. Dakshina. Stage. Anandadham. Wow, we are really very full of Ananda and we are staying here. And I don't want to give you any biography about her because most people know about the Bharatiya Vichara Kendra and so on. So, since we are here and this is everywhere you see pictures of Swamiji, today I want to talk about some aspects of Swami Vivekananda himself. Because never in the history of India has there been a personality like this, especially a spiritual being who transferred all his spiritual attainments into service for mankind. Generally in India you will find either on one extreme people who are meditating and living in caves, or people who do social work who are not anything to do with spiritual matters. Here is a unique combination of someone who, having touched the heights of spiritual understanding, descended the steps and came down and decided to do something for mankind. I think 100 and odd years after him, much of India's movement towards evolution has been an inspiration given by Swamiji. In fact, I tell people that the complete works of Swami Vivekananda have to be read for another 100 years before one can make complete sense of what is being said. It's not meant for this century only. There's much more to look up to. And all this he achieved. A wandering monk who at one time had no place to sleep. It reminds me of Jesus Christ saying in the Sermon on the Mount, "The snakes have holes and the foxes have dens, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." When Swamiji was wandering throughout the length and breadth of this country, before he became well known as Swami Vivekananda, many times he changed his name. Some places he was called Satchidananda, somewhere Vivekananda. He kept changing his name, mainly to remain unknown. And he had no money, nobody to look up to. Of course, because of his stature and his personality and how he spoke and the wisdom that came from his mouth every time he opened it, most places he went, Maharajas welcomed him. If you look at his life, you will see he has lived with all the Maharajas starting from this end to that end, except when he used to get fed up of the Maharajas and disappear into loneliness. In fact, there is a beautiful story. The Maharaja of Khetri, when Swamiji went to Khetri and stayed with the then Maharaja, The Maharaja was, he was a good man, and he said he believed that the divinity is without form and without shape, and that there was no need to respect any traditions and so on. So the first day Swamiji went there, when he spoke to the Maharaja, he said, I have respect for all that, but many of these sannyasins, they don't do any work, they just wander around depending on others, they're sponges and so on. But since you are wearing the holy clothes of a sannyasin, you are welcome to stay here. He was also impressed by Swamiji's learning and his personality. So he took him to the palace to show him around, and Swamiji saw a picture of the previous Maharaja. So he asked him, who is this? He said, this is my father, the Maharaja of Khetri, before me. Ajmer Allah, Khetri. So, it is close to that place. So Swamiji very bravely pulled the portrait out, put it down and spit on it. So Maharaja was quite shocked and angry. Why did you do it? He said, what is there in a picture? It makes no difference. It is your forefather maybe, but so who cares? Because the divinity is everywhere. So what is the point? Then the Maharaja got his lesson that we honor images and memories because there is something associated with it. But it should take a person like Swamiji to do that. Nobody would have dared in those days to talk against the Maharaja. So why? Because having found the fountainhead of all spiritual understanding, he had nothing to gain from anybody and nothing to lose. When you have attained a stage which is defined as Purnamada, Purnamidam, it's complete there and it is complete here. Purnasya Purnamada. What we see here has come from that completeness. Purnasya Purnamada. If you cannot take anything away from it, because it always remains complete. When someone like him, who has touched that actually as an experience, he has nothing to gain from anybody and there is nothing to lose. Everything is finished. So he lived his life bravely, with great courage. He said, in fact, there are quotations from him which says, weakness is death. So, even from his young age, he had no fear. There was nothing that he feared. And he was very clear about it, even in his spiritual pursuits. He was a man who always asked questions and tried to find answers. In his early days, he was associated with the Brahmo Samaj. One of the prominent leaders of the Brahmo Samaj was Devendranath Tagore. So one day he went and asked him, do you believe in God, or have you seen God which you are talking about? Devendranath Tagore said, it's there in the Vedanta. He said, no, it's a simple question, have you seen God? There was no answer to this. Very few people can really answer this question. Then, one day, he went to Dakshineshwar, as a young man, and saw Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Before that, he had seen him at a concert in a friend's house where bhajans and kirtans were being sung. Swamiji was a good tabla player. He was a multi-talented person. He was a good tablist. So he was doing the tabla, and Ramakrishna heard the kirtan and then stood up and danced and thought, what is this ecstasy which is in this man's face? So, but he was not a person who would go into such things. So one day he decided to go and find out. Somebody told him about Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. So he went there. And he asked him, after the preliminaries, he asked him one question. He said, have you seen God? The question was couched in such a way that it said, I want a clear answer. And the almost unlettered priest of the temple of Kali smiled and said, I have seen God much more clearly than I see you sitting before me. This was the first time that somebody said something like this. It struck him like a thunderbolt. He said, is this possible that this simple man can answer this question so straightforwardly? So he decided to see him more often. There are one or two very strange and funny incidences. In one, when all the people had left, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa took him behind a screen which was hanging on this side of the Ganga. And if you go to Dakshineshwar, there is a place which is just outside the temple, part of the temple complex, but which is Sri Ramakrishna's room. That's the place where he used to sleep and sit and talk. And there were two beds. One was for him to sit and meditate, the others to sleep, with perfect mosquito nets tucked in and so on. And that's the place where all the young boys used to gather to listen to his stories. And most of the teaching was done, stories, jokes, having fun, eating rasgullas. In fact, many people complain, what is this mad priest doing to these young boys? Instead of going to school and college, they're sitting here and eating rasgullas. He used to show them how frogs jump. You know, they learned through experiment. Anyway, that was much after that. Every time I go to Dakshineshwar, and before I enter Ramakrishna's room, I have this strange feeling that they're all sitting there now, talking and joking. So before I enter, I usually silently ask permission before I go. Can I join the gang? So it's a very tangible feeling out there. So anyway, that was much. So one day he took him behind a screen when most people had left. And he suddenly started weeping and crying. Not Swamiji, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And Swamiji was quite taken aback. He said, why did you take so long to come here? Where have you been all these years? I have been longing to see a person like you. People come here, they only have worldly problems. Say, I want this, I want that. Nobody wants God in this Calcutta. I have been dying to see a person like you. Where were you? Swamiji said to himself, what is this man talking? Who? I am Narendra Datta, son of so-and-so. And he is behaving as if he knows me for so long. I don't know who he is. And he said, oh, you are Narayana, come in the form of a human being to teach humanity. And Swamiji decided I'll never come here again. He was a very skeptical person, very thoughtful. He always thought before he did. He said, I think the man is mad. There's no point in coming here again. I won't come here again. Then he went back. But something couldn't keep him from going there. There was something that pulled him back again and again. Many days he decided, no, I'm not going there. I think this man is completely crazy. I know who I am. I'm Narendra Datta. And he says, oh, you're Naranarayana, you have come here. Oh, why haven't you come here for so long? Who does he think he is and who does he think I am? So then one day he went again. Now there is another story which is linked to this. Now I am very bad at linear thinking. Mine is all fuzzy logic. I go here, I go here. So there is another story connected to this. I am talking about how Swami Vivekananda went back again after deciding not to go. Now this story concerns again connected to Ramakrishna and Vivekananda in some way. And there was another M who lived about some 100 years ago. He was a householder. When I say householder, I mean in India, in the US, if you say householder, they wonder what's a householder. Does he hold the house? In India, it means a married man with a family. So, his name was Mahendranath Gupta.